Best of r/entitled parents episode 205. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily. EM discriminates against foreign language. EM, the middle-aged Karen woman in the story. EK, some crotch goblin me, the one and only. M, the lovely female that takes care of me. So me and my mother went to get some things at multiple stores. As we were missing some stuff we needed, we entered the shop and disinfected our hands with hand sanitizer they had at the door. My mother comes from Spain, so she wants me and my brother to learn and speak Spanish. We've spoken it since birth and we always speak it among each other. As we were walking we were talking about all the things we needed to get as she forgot the list at home. Some people looked at us oddly but they kept shopping like normal, not thinking much of it, like all people should do. Here is where EM and EK come into play. They are talking about how we look and that we shouldn't be here. People start looking at them with a disgusted face. EM smiles and keeps walking toward me and my mother. EM clears her throat. Crickets. EM clears her throat. Again, even louder. Me and my mom take notice and look at them, then walk toward the aisle with the kitchen knives. EM, to random stranger, look, they're buying a knife. What will they do with it? The random stranger just looks at EM shocked at the way she just talked about us. Me and my mom go to the cash desk to pay for the things we had bought. EM makes another comment on our appearance. M, in perfect Dutch, have a wonderful day, miss. Me, in perfect Dutch, the same to everyone else. EM turns bright red and leaves the store in a huff, mumbling some very racist slurs along the way. Thanks for reading. Thank you. Next. The noise police. Another post reminded me of my best friend's first foray into property ownership. While I never lived with them, I visited a couple times a week on average and saw this behavior firsthand. My bestie and her husband bought the first floor of a two-family house that had been turned into condos. Word of advice, never buy into a two-unit condo association. I've seen it several times and it's never ended well. Anyhow, all was fine for the first 2 years until the upstairs unit sold to an epically entitled single mother and her toddler son. The first thing the single mother did was rip out the carpeting, all the layers of noise proofing under the flooring, and refinish the shitty subfloor to be her flooring. Her excuse for this was allergies and not being able to afford proper flooring. Maybe don't buy an expensive condo in a trendy neighborhood then. Anyhow, this left her basically nothing between her unit and the lower unit that would muffle any sound at all. Every single time she could hear anything from downstairs during certain times, she flew into a screaming rage and came banging on their front door. She expected absolute silence between 1 PM and 5 PM because her son took his nap somewhere in there depending on when he got tired. Also between 7 PM and 9 AM because kiddo was either sleeping or winding down for bed in that time period. Sometimes she'd flip out outside those hours at random because she was an entitled jerk. The quiet hours in the condo agreement were 11 PM to 7 AM. Just for the record, not that she cared. Some of the things she came screaming to complain about that I personally witnessed in the daytime or early evening, the times I was visiting that did not overlap with quiet hours, included most any conversation at a volume above a whisper, running the garbage disposal, dishwasher, washer, dryer, blender, or basically any appliance. Even the ding of the toaster was too much. Vacuuming, having the television or music on at any volume, playing the piano or acoustic guitar, talking in a normal speaking voice, opening or closing doors, not even remotely slamming, their cats playing chase around the house, eating meals, the clatter of utensils on plates. She wanted them to use all plastic or disposable paper as it was quieter. Phones ringing or vibrating too loud, usually when left on a table or something that amplified that noise a bit. Doing yoga, washing dishes by hand, sneezing, walking too hard. Any walking was called this if you stepped on one of the creaky floorboards in this 100-year-old house. Having the compressor of the fridge come on, it made a tiny thunk and a dull hum like most do. The ice machine being used to dispense ice or it dumping ice as part of its normal cycle. Flushing the toilet. Worse, her kid was a tantrum-tossing caterwauling type who liked to beat toys against the floor. There being nothing between the floors anymore that muffled any sound, my bestie and her husband were subject to this insane noise at full volume at all hours. Any mention of it caused his entitled mother to launch into a tirade about how he was just a kid. how hard it was to be a single mother, and what did they expect her to do? Well, put the noise-proofing material back, which wasn't even allowed to be removed per the contract. Given it was a 2-unit condo association and entitled mommy wouldn't vote against herself, there was nothing they could do except sue, which they couldn't afford at that time and would have only served to escalate things further. This wildly entitled mom made their lives so miserable with her constant beating on their door to scream at them at all hours that it took about 6 months for them to put their condo on the market and move. The entitled mother was thrilled about this and gloated about the horrid noisy people leaving. Since they lived in a very trendy up-and-coming town, they got several full asking price offers. The one they accepted wasn't the best offer as the terms were extremely fussy and specific, but the seemingly entitled couple that made the offer was also extremely pregnant. My bestie and her husband moved to a single-family home where they were free to flush whenever they wanted. We all still have a laugh now and then imagining the war zone of feuding entitled parents in the old place. TL. Dr. Entitled Parent rips out soundproofing between condo units then flips out constantly at being able to hear everyday noises like flushing. Friends move to escape the abuse and sell to a very pregnant entitled couple. We all enjoy imagining the war zone left behind. Thank you. Next. EM tries making me give my spot up for her daughter. So, this happened last year, but I didn't have enough comment karma, so here we go. Egg you me EM Karen EK the kid egged my dad. I had just graduated high school, and I was waiting for responses from the colleges I applied to. Well, the day came. I got my acceptance letter to a good college in my state. Well, my neighbors had a child who graduated with me, and applied to the same college. The only difference is that she didn't get accepted. So, she jumped our fence, it isn't high since it was for the dog, and knocked on the door. So, I opened it. The conversation goes as follows. EK hey, did you get into college? Egg yeah, I did. Did you? EK no. Because you took my spot. Egg well, if you had actually tried in high school instead of slacking and turning to drugs, maybe you would have gotten in. EK I got all A's in middle school and high school, thank you. And vaping isn't a drug. Now, the funny part is that in middle school, she had advocated against vaping, then ended up doing it a year later. As for the grades part, she started slipping in high school, resulting in her dropping from all her advanced classes. So, I just shook my head and watched her leave. I wasn't affected. She ruined her life on her own. Her mom and her came back over, and her mom was pissed. With a wrath of fury, she knocked on my door. I opened it, having been woken by the knocking, and was pushed down to the ground. EM if you know what's good for you, you'll give up your spot. Egg you my spot for the college I have worked towards since I was young? No way. Get out of here Karen. EM my name is not Karen, and I demand you give your spot to EK. Egg you listen EM, it's your daughter's fault for slacking. I am not giving up my spot for her. My dad had heard screaming after a thud, so he had come up to see what was going on. When he saw EM screaming at me, Egged what's going on, EM. EM egg you stole EK spot in college. Egged oh, you got in? Well, I don't know what to tell you. She got in fair and square. EM no she did not. She took my baby's spot. Egged listen, if you don't leave right now I'm calling the police. EM and EK did leave, but not without threatening us first. And as far as I know, the kid still lives there, without a job, and is not in college. As for her mom, she got the cops called on her for trying to harass my sister. I, however, am enjoying quarantine with my roommate, who actually is the other person from my grade to make it into the college. As for my family, they're doing better now. My mom is a worker, however, so it's taking a toll on her still. But other than that, we all good. TL. Doctor, I was threatened to give my spot up in college for a kid who didn't deserve it. Thank you. Next. So my GF's aunt is a entitled Fisco. So this happened about a month ago and my GF gave me permission to post this. EA, Aunt GF, well GFGR, girlfriend's roommate Eek, EA's kid. So this began at around midnight. I don't remember what time my girlfriend said, so I won't go into too much detail, but anyways one night my GF was watching TV with her roommate in their shared apartment as we don't have enough money right now to move in. together, but all of a sudden my GF and GR hear a knock on their door, and who else could it be but EM. Standing next to her is her 5-year-old son, who isn't that bad but doesn't like to listen sometimes. But anyways, my GF then says, "Oh hello, why are you at my apartment at like 12 at night?" EA, "Well, me and Dave, EA's boyfriend, want to go to the club, so what chic for me." GF and GR, no, he doesn't live with us and you didn't even come wearing a mask." EA, "WTF do you mean? No, I'm your aunt, we're family and family helps each other, and that covered stuff is nonsense, it's all fake." And as all this was going on, Eek ran past all of them without them knowing. And a little context, my GR is a heavy drinker, almost alcoholic level drinker, so when they were watching the movie he was drinking, and Eek ran straight to the living room part and drank from one of my GR's beer bottles, and EA noticed this and flipped. EA, "Why the FCK do you have alcohol in a child's reach, you stupid mother FCKERS?" GR, "What TF do you mean? Why do we have alcohol in a child's reach? We weren't fucking expecting you here." EA, "Don't talk back to me like that, you're not my family. And you won't fucking believe this, she slapped my GR across the face." So my GF then said, "GTFO now." And she ended up grabbing Eek and put him outside with EA and slammed the door in her face, and it was hard for GR to not want to press charges. TL, "Doctor, my girlfriend's aunt is a psycho, entitled BTCH. Thank you." Next. IDK, what it is with switches and entitlement, but here I am to tell my story. EM, entitled Momek, entitled kid, probably around 7, lady, very nice lady who was like 60/70, me obviously. So I was at the eye doctor 2 days ago. I've desperately needed new glasses since my old ones are starting to give me headaches. There's the whole everyone wears mask rule, and a new situation on finding your glasses where if you touch them they gotta go in a bin to be sanitized. I get to the office, walk around, picked out my new frames and go to sit in the waiting room. Very few people are around, so I pulled out my Nintendo Switch to play some Animal Crossing. I have the volume muted because I'm not a totalers and I don't want to disturb the few others waiting. I pay zero attention to the people coming and going until I hear EK screeching walking into the door. This kid was going nuts, running everywhere while his mom was filling out paperwork and finding him frames. He literally knocked over a display and broke a pair of frames. Crawling on the floor behind the displays, grabbing and putting on glasses that weren't even for kids, then giving them to EM, who put them back on the displays, not the bins, or he was just throwing them in the floor. I just kinda glanced up, then went back to my game. Eventually EM and EK come into the waiting room and sit at the bench behind my bench. This kid stares at me and directly turns around to watch me play my game. His head was basically on my shoulder and I could feel him literally breathing on me. And since I have a lung condition and I'm not trying to catch this disease, not to mention he wasn't wearing a mask though he came in with one, I quietly proceed to turn off my game and put it in the case and away in my bag. EK started bawling and asking could it be his turn now, throwing a tantrum because it was his turn since I wasn't playing anymore. EM asked me if I wouldn't mind to play my game again or let him have a turn since it was keeping him calm for the long wait. I said no, I wouldn't turn my game back on as I don't want her kid in my face. She proceeded to get very angry and tried to get me kicked out of the eye doc because I said her kid had this highly transmitted disease, complaining to everyone that walked in not to sit near me or I'd treat them as if they were infected. Since I was mean to her precious child even though I never said anything directly to the EK. After about 20 more minutes the doc finally calls me back and I get up to go into the exam room. This lady has the audacity to ask me to let her son play with my Switch now since I won't be using it while I'm getting my exam. I just looked at her with a blank stare, said nothing, and walked back to the exam room with my bag in tow. When I got done I was thinking thank God she was done harassing me and I can leave. I was walking to pay and EM stood up shouting that lady, me, just stole my purse with my son's game in IT, to which this lady who had been in the waiting area the whole time piped up and said EM if you don't stop harassing that young lady right now I'll call my son inserts town sheriff's name here and have you arrested for harassment. EM plopped right down next to her EK and didn't say another word the whole rest of the time I was there. Thank you. Next. EM prints my revision sheets to people I don't know then demands we pay. So this story happened a few years ago. I was in the 4th grade and we had final exams and we get revision sheets so we can revise. Some parents take from their friends the sheets to print them if they can't afford it. Now onto the story. So after the revision I went to wait for my mom to pick me up so I can go home and take a nap. This EM comes up to me and says, "EM, hey, can you give me your revision sheets?" Me, "No, sorry, I don't give my sheets to anyone." EM, "But I want to print them for my son." My mom greets the EM and tells me that she is her friend. So I give her my sheets and wait for her until she prints it in the library next to the school. After a while she doesn't come, so we went to the library. We found her printing to 6 other people I don't know. My mom confronted her and said, "Mom, what the fuck, you only told me you will only print for your son." EM, "Well, what's the problem?" Mom, "You told me you will print for your son. You can't just take someone's stuff and do what you want with it. That's not how it works." 5 minutes later the worker says, "Worker, alright, that will be $45. EM, "Alright, mom's name, pay him $45. My mom opened her eyes wide and said, You are the one who printed it, so you pay." EM, "No, this is your sheet and you will pay for it now." EM then tried to punch my mom in the face. Luckily my mom dodge worker was tired of all of this BS and said, "EM, she doesn't have to pay anything now. Quit your BS and pay right now." EM, "WHO, do you think you are? My husband is a school principal." She was lying, and he can sue you anytime he wants. Worker, "Oh really? Well, I know the principal personally and he is not married, and in fact if your husband was a school principal wouldn't he give you a sheet for free?" EM, "Fuck you, here is your stupid $45. I am never coming to this school and this library again." I didn't see EM or her kid after. To this day I wonder what happened to her. Side note, her husband actually used to be a principal in 2006 to 2008. He then got fired because he made a mistake. Now he started his own business and opened a pet shop and earns good money from it. Thank you. Next. I met my first Karen today. I never thought I'd meet one in the wild. But it finally happened. On this glorious day, I work as a cashier/supervisor at a grocery store. Other stores in my town have started to lift restrictions due to not being a hot spot, but we haven't received any word from head office, so we still have all those rules in place. 6 feet apart, no outside bags, etc. We have signs posted all over the place stating these rules, yet we still have people that blatantly ignore them. Today was one such day. I was working the front desk, which is also the express checkout. Kraken comes up with her daughter. She's not important, but she was there, and starts putting her items up without being instructed, right on top of my paperwork. Whatever, lady. I'm polite, go through the usual spiel. She pulls out her own bag. It begins. Me, "Oh, sorry, but we're not allowed our own shopping bags." Karen, "It's fine, I'm not making you touch it." And she proceeds to take the groceries out of my hand and starts putting them in her own bag. Me, "I'm sorry for any confusion, but they aren't supposed to be in the store." Karen, "Other stores allow them." Me, "Yes, but it's still store policy here." Karen, "I'm not paying for the plastic bags, I'm using my own. Do your job." Now, it's already been a long day, and at this point, I was already done. I had to summon the hugest wave of calm. I am an example, and I will not be beaten by this slug of a woman. Me, "We aren't charging for bags, ma'am. If you don't want plastic, we also have paper, but I ask again that you don't use your own bag." Karen, "This is terrible customer service. You have a horrendous attitude." Bloody bloody blah. It went on. How could she show her face in public? What a miserable person. I honestly couldn't believe it. I just went through the transaction without another word. I'm a very emotional person and I honestly felt like crying. While I was busy with other customers, I noticed she was talking to my manager and I was just thinking, welp, this is it. Something I didn't mention. I work at an Asian grocery store. Half of the customers are Asian. That's important because 2 of the managers are also Asian and I have seen mild racism on both their parts, specifically favoring Asian employees and customers over any other race. This bitch who gave me a mild anxiety attack was Asian, so I genuinely thought I was gonna get at the very least put on temporary leave. However, my guardian angel was there. Another customer who was standing behind her and saw the whole thing talked to the manager after she did and defended me, telling him that I was fine and polite and she was being a cow. So, I never did get talked to about that incident, and the rest of the night went swimmingly. A customer bought me a chocolate bar, so I think I found my soulmate. And that was my first encounter with a real Karen. 0/10, would not play again.